والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. So we are continuing with our lesson of Kitab Al Tawheed, the book of Tawheed, the book of monotheism, by Shaykh al-Islam Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab rahimahullah ta'ala. And we are going through in the last few chapters and going on to this chapter the type of things that are shirk, that are associating partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the Shaykh rahimahullah, he says in the chapter which we are about to go into today, باب ما جاء في الذبح لغير الله, the chapter what has came in slaughtering or sacrificing for other than the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the Shaykh rahimahullah, he begins with the ayah and he says وقول الله تعالى قل إن صلاتي ونسكي ومحياي ومماتي لله رب العالمين لا شريك له وبذلك أمرت وأنا أول المرسلين وأنا أول المسلمين. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says, he's saying to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, say indeed my prayer, wa nusuki. And the ulama, they have said nusuki, and from the tafsir that nusuki is the sacrifice, the dhabiha. Wa mahyaya, and my life, meaning that everything he has done in his life. Wa mamati, and my death, meaning that of the actions and the doings and the iman and the faith that he died sallallahu alayhi wa sallam upon. Lillahi rabbil alamin, are all to Allah, the Lord of the world. And then in the next ayah it says la sharika lah, that there is no partners with him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is alone. And this shows the ongoing theme in this book of Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah, the oneness of Lordship. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or the oneness of worship. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is one in his worship. وَبِذَلِكَ أُمِرْتُ, and with that I have been ordered. وَأَنَا أَوَّلُ الْمُسْلِمِينَ, and I am the first of the Muslims. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he's the first of the Muslims of his time. In Islam, it means to submit. So those before him, Isa and Ibrahim and Nuh and Yunus and all of the prophets, they were all Muslims because they submitted. And when he says, I am the first of the Muslims, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells him to say, I'm the first of the Muslims, it doesn't mean the first of the Muslims from the time of Adam. Like, it means the first of the Muslims in this ummah, in this nation, because the prophets that came before the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam were all Muslims in the sense of the term linguistically. So from this, we can see that it is shirk to sacrifice other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the sacrificing is put on the same level or next to the salah. And we know if anybody prays to other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he's not a Muslim, he's a kafir. If we saw someone praying, prostrating to an idol, we'd say he's a kafir. If someone prayed to Jesus, we'd say he's a kafir. So, just like making salah or making prayer to any other or to any person or other person other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would be shirk, slaughtering for the sake of someone else or sacrificing for the sake of someone else is shirk as well. And we can also get from these ayahs that the salah and the sacrificing, prayer and sacrificing, are two of the greatest worships or acts of worship that a person can do to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it is what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has been ordered with. And then the Shaykh rahimahullah uses the ayah and he says وَقَوْلِهِ فَصَلِّ لِرَبِّكَ وَانْحَرْ, so pray to your Lord and sacrifice. And this is a direct order. Before, it shows that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to make no partner with him in his actions. For example, praying, and the topic of the chapter, sacrificing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And now he orders him, فَصَلِّ لِرَبِّكَ وَانْحَرْ. So pray to your Lord and sacrifice. And this opposes the mushrikeen who used to sacrifice to the idols and to other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what we can gain from this is that sacrificing to other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as we have said before, is major shirk. A shirk that takes one out of the fold of Islam. And that sacrificing for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is one of the greatest ways to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the blessings that He has sent down. Because in Surah Al-Kawthar, before that, He says, Inna a'tainaka al-Kawthar. Indeed, we have given you the Kawthar, which is a river or a stream or a lake from Jannah. And then the letter fasalli shows that there is a reason behind it. And that reason is to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the ni'mah, for the blessing that He has given him, which is the Kawthar. And we can take that not only with the Kawthar, but all the other blessings that we have from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wa alaykum assalam wa rahmatullahi. We can take that for all the other blessings. The blessing of your eyesight, the blessing of Islam, the blessing of Tawheed, of having the right aqeedah, of being able to come to the masjid to pray, to attend the lessons. People are not able to do that. People have been misguided away from Islam, not Muslims. They've been misguided to innovations, doing things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not legislated, that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam has not legislated. People are unable to come to the masjid, unable to come to the lessons and sit and listen to the lectures. As Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah, he states that one of the consequences of the sins is that one is unable to attend or unable to attain knowledge. And one of this is coming to the lectures. So for that blessing of coming to these lectures and being in these circles and being in these halaqat, we should thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by praying to Him and sacrificing to Him alone. And then the Shaykh rahimahullah, he uses a hadith and he says, عن علي ibn Abi Talib رضي الله عنه قال حدثني رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم بأربع كلمات لعن الله من ذبح لغير الله ولعن الله من لعن والديه ولعن الله من آوى محدثا ولعن الله من غير منار الأرض. رواه مسلم. That Ali ibn Abi Talib radiyallahu anhu, he narrated and said that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam told him about 4 phrases or 4 things. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala curses any person that sacrifices other than the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala curses those who curse their parents. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala curses those who bring a new matter in. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala curses those who change the boundary of the land so they are able to steal it. And the shahid, what we take from this hadith that links to our chapter, is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala curses anyone that sacrifices to other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this makes it clear that this is going against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is waging war with Him. And you might think, oh, we all sacrifice to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's no issue. Like there are places where they will sacrifice for the sake of others. There are many places. Many people do it. They sacrifice for other than the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. we live in a country where many people, they sacrifice for other than the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you will see a hadith that even in the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and those who come after them, people sacrifice throughout history. And if we look at the other parts of the hadith, which are also important, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala curses those who curse their parents. So if you curse your parents, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala curses you. This is clear. Like, and it also means if you were to curse the parents of someone else, or you were to say something to someone that would cause them to curse your parents, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala curses you for that. Because you were a reason, you were a sabab for them cursing your parents. And then that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala curses anyone that brings a new matter. And this is bid'ah, this is innovation. As we know, and we say every Jum'ah, kullu muhdithatin bid'ah, wa kullu bid'atin dalala, wa kullu dalalatin finnar. That every new matter is an innovation. And every innovation is in the hellfire. And those who change the boundaries to steal land. Stealing land is clear. It's haram. But what we take from this is the benefits of, or the benefit that links to the chapter, that it is haram and it is shirk, major shirk, to sacrifice to other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it shows the severity of doing that. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala curses you. And then the last hadith that the Shaykh rahimahullah uses, and he says, وَعَنْ طَارِقِ بْنِ شِهَابٍ أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال دخل الجنة رجل في ذباب ودخل النار رجل في ذباب. That Tariq, that is narrated, that Tariq ibn Shuhab or Shihab, that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that a person enters Jannah because of a fly, and a person enters the hellfire because of a fly. And they said, and it was said, وَقَالُوا وَكَيْفَ ذَلِكَ يَا رَسُولَ اللَّهِ. How is that, O Prophet of Allah? And he said, مَرَّ رَجُلَانِ عَلَى قَوْمٍ لَهُمْ صَنَمٌ لَا يُجَاوِزُهُ أَحَدٌ حَتَّى يُقَرِّبُ لَهُ شَيْئًا. That two men passed by a nation or a group of people, and they were not able to pass by them until they brought something to sacrifice. Because they had idols. That these people, they had idols, and they were not allowed, no one was allowed to pass by them until they sacrificed something to them. قالوا لأحدهما قرب. They said to one of the two men, bring something. قال ليس عندي شيء أقرب. He said, I do not have anything to bring. The man said, I do not have anything to bring. So they said, قالوا قرب لو ذبابة. Bring, even if it is a fly, something small. فقرب ذبابا فخلوا سبيله فدخل النار. So he brought a fly, and they took it, and he entered the Jannah. He entered Jahannam. He entered the hellfire. وَقَالُوا لِلْآخَرِ. And they said to the other, because there was two, they said to the other man, قَرِّب. Bring. And he said, مَا كُنْتُ لِأُقَرِّبَ لِأَحَدٍ شَيْئًا دُونَ اللَّهِ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ فَضَرَبُوا عُنُقَهُ فَدَخَلَ الْجَنَّةِ. And the man said, I am not to bring anything to sacrifice to other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So they killed him. They hit his neck, meaning they cut him with a sword. They killed him with a sword. فَدَخَلَ الْجَنَّةِ. So he entered Jannah. Subhanallah, what you can take from this hadith. First of all, again, as we have said, that is major shirk, to sacrifice to other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because we can see the person that did it in the story, he entered the hellfire. And it shows that a person, if he is faced with shirk, he must stand strong. He must stand against it. And now we are faced with it a lot. Many people, or it's all around us, first of all, the influence. Or some of us in school, other people, we see other people doing things, doing bid'ah that have shirk in them, innovations that have shirk in them. And if you don't do what they do, they'll call you a Wahhabi, or they'll call you this, or they'll call you that. So they feel pressured. Some people feel pressured to do it. Some people are pressured by their families to go into these things. Many people, they want to become Muslim, lacking they can't because of their families. And it shows that even in this, a person must stay strong. Because this Tawheed, the Aqidah, that is what takes a person to Jannah. And that is what takes a person to the hellfire, whatever his actions may be. If he does not commit shirk and he stays firm upon his Tawheed, by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he will enter Jannah. And we see like the other man who didn't, and he stayed strong even though he was killed, he entered Jannah. Why? Because he stood firm with his Tawheed. And it shows that we should not belittle little things, because they could be what takes us to the hellfire. Such as some types of shirk, minor shirk, something that is very spread amongst the people now, and we'll get onto it later, inshaAllah, that many people, they swear by other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They'll say, on my mum's life, or on my father's life, or by this, or by that, or by the Kaaba, or by this, or by the actual Mus'haf, or they say mums, dads, this, whatever. This is minor shirk. This is associated partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Lakin it is so spread amongst the youth. Aiding in shirk, aiding in celebrations like Christmas, Halloween, things like this. These forms of minor shirk, things that people don't know about. Hanging amulets, thinking they protect you. Major shirk. Things that appear so small. Lakin in reality, they are so big, and they are the decisive factor to whether you enter the hellfire or you enter the Jannah, or you enter paradise. So a person, he must be aware. He must stand strong in the face of Tawheed, or stand strong in the face of shirk, and keep Tawheed in his heart. And by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, his mathwa, his destination will be Jannah. Whereas others, their destination is the hellfire. And the Shaykh, he says, Babu la yudhbahu lillahi bimakanin yudhbahu fihi li ghayrillah. The chapter that is not sacrificed for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a place that is sacrificed to other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we will get onto that in the next lesson. هذا وصلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين.